Hey everybody, how you doing? Hey, welcome everybody. Hi Elaine. How you doing? Yes, Ivy, Rosa. I see y'all in here. Michelle, y'all getting buckled up and ready. Um Today, hey, we are talking about how to be an adult in relationships. It's our book club. Sorry I couldn't make it last week, but we are talking about how to be an adult in relationships. That's the name of the book. We These are the 5 keys to mindful loving. Mindful Loving by David Rico. You guys, welcome everyone to the Healing Haven book club. How you doing, Andre? Sheila, how's it going? Today we're talking about the practice of high romance. So the past couple of weeks, we have been discussing what high romance looks like in relationships in the book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships. Y'all got your journals? Everybody got their journals? So we're going to talk about practices. Today, you're going to be learning about how to understand healthy relationships and one things that you can do to promote healthy connection with individuals for yourself, how you can incorporate this into your own life, and what toxic, addictive relationships look like. Addictive love, y'all. We got to understand what that means. So today we're going to talk about the practices. And in this book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships, it's a book by David Rico. David Rico. He is the author of this book. And if you go into the show notes of the class, you will find the link to the interview that I did with the author of this book. You will also find links to previous YouTube class sessions where we talk about all of the 5 keys to mindful loving. And let's see what else. What else do I want to let y'all know today before we jump in? Oh, I do want y'all to know this is a webinar format. So I want you to text LOVE, LOVE, to 87948, and then you'll be able to know when we go live. You can register in advance and get notifications on when and how I'm coming in here, and you can understand what's going on with my schedule, because sometimes it's not always the same every week. Anyway, how's everybody? How is everybody? Y'all got this book? This book comes in audio form. It comes in paper form. I'm old school, so I prefer the paper form. But you can also get it on Kindle or so forth, Kindle version of it. So we are on chapter 4, which is all about high romance. That's the beginning stages of a relationship. When you find somebody and you fall in love, and what does this high romance look like? What does healthy romance look like? And what is it that you look at in relationships where it's very toxic? How do you know? It feels the same. Sometimes when you meet someone for the first time and you start dating them, it feels all exciting and it feels fun. But when is it where it gets to the point where you cross the line and it becomes really crazy love, right? Like it goes into a place where you start to see some unhealthy red flags. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about the end of chapter 4 when we discuss all about the practices. So if you turn to the page 125 in the paper copy of the book, there's a section in chapter 4 called the practices. So everybody got your journals? I think you should have time now to get your journals out and start taking notes. Start taking notes on what to do. So here we go. The practices of how you can establish high romance instead of a toxic, addictive type of love. All right. And let's see. Before we get started, I just want to at least know where y'all can find me. Okay, so if you're interested in working with me, go to coachingwithdralicia.com, fill out the intake form. You get to, you can book a consultation with me. So you'll be able to do that then. Yes, Lidora and Delcia, how you doing? And Patricia, I remember Patricia and Wanda. How y'all doing? Okay, we're going to start page 125, the practices. Simply noticing where I am. This sounds like a mindful practice. Whenever someone challenges you to notice certain things, that's when you know you're sitting back, you're not participating, you're just paying attention, you're noticing. Simply noticing where I am. In commitment, healthy egos relate. Yeah, healthy egos relate. That's my man. That's my woman. That's what that means. That's healthy egos. It's not saying I possess this person, but it says that's my person. That's my man. You start identifying with that person. That's a healthy ego, right? That's my cup of tea, right? 3 stages characterize most human enterprises. There's 3 stages that characterizes most human enterprises. This includes intimate relationships. It also includes family relationships. It includes educational. Yes, when you go to school. Yes. And it also includes religious affiliations and any long-term interest. So what he's saying is notice where I am. So notice that all relationships have stages and they all follow a similar profile. Okay, all of them. Family relationships, educational relationships. When you first start school, don't you kind of like romanticize? Do y'all remember, all of you all who went to college? Who went to college? Let me know. What was it like, the orientation? When you go to college and you do the orientation and you move into your dorm, let's say you went to college away from home. You move into your dorm, you're all excited. You built up this romance about the school. You're infatuated by the library. You're infatuated by I don't know how nice everybody. Isn't everybody really nice to freshmen when they first arrive on campus? Everybody is nice. And eventually, because that's the romance part of anything that's new, but eventually come finals. Right now we're in finals or midterms. You start to have conflict. You get your first exam back and you're like, dang, what happened? You start to become disillusioned. And then you go through it 3 or 4 years. And then finally, by your senior year, you've selected a major. You know who your friends are. You know who the people you don't like. And then you start moving and grooving. You've integrated. You've become you've dug into the major and you start identifying with this profession. If you pick a professional major, you start becoming socialized and you start getting ready to leave. You integrate who and what you are. So that's just an illustration of, just like in any relationships, there are stages that you go through. So that's what he's saying. See if you can locate yourself in one of these 3 phases of relating, which correspond to the heroic journey. The heroic journey. Y'all seen movies, right? Every single movie focuses on a hero's journey. And you know what hero's journey is? Shout out to the late, great Joseph Campbell. Y'all check out his books. Joseph Campbell lays out a powerful narrative in all movies that's based on mythology. So any of y'all want to become movie writers and script writers, all you got to do is study mythology. You just need to study Joseph Campbell and his hero's journey, because any movie you watch is all about the hero's journey. Okay. So it's this storytelling tradition. And not only is this storytelling tradition common in movies that we watch, but it's also common in ancient cultures, indigenous cultures. Every single one of them has this storytelling element about the hero's journey. And really what it is the transformative journey that you have when you embark on something new. It's and it resonates with us. We love it We watch a movie and we know how it's going to end. We know the man gets the girl, loses the girl, gets the girl back, and at the end they walk away. We know when we watch a movie about a crime, we know they're going to solve the crime at the end, but we want to know how. And why do we keep going to the same movie over and over again, knowing the outcome? It's because it is a very human experience that all of us experience. So it resonates with us. Hollywood and the music industry is based off of the hero's journey, and it's a framework oftentimes for stories, right? So we're embarking upon this personal journey, and nothing is more personal in terms of your development than being in a romantic relationship. So these trials and tribulations, struggles that you have in your relationships, if it's healthy and reflective, it will help you grow, it will help you evolve, and ultimately you can have a very deep and fulfilling connection with another person. But it's going to take some trials and tribulations. Your love has to be tested in order for you to know if it's real or not. That increases your commitment. And so the hero's journey that this book talks about is based on Joseph Campbell. Check him out. He is talking about how we have this quest for love, how we can overcome obstacles. And in the process of overcoming the obstacles, we emerge transformed. and then we're ready to cultivate and nurture high romance in our relationships. Okay, so it is a hero's journey. How y'all doing? Oh, I see some people in here. Marina asked, do any of y'all have audio or video yet? Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. Hopefully you can hear me and see me. I'm hoping that you can. Yes, people can hear me and see me. Yes, audio and video. So I'm just making sure. And if you want to see previous videos of other sections of this book, go to the show notes and you'll have access to the classroom. Thank you, Wanda. You can hear me. Okay. Just making sure I ain't talking to nobody. I like talking to myself, but today I want to read this book. So, hero's journey. It all is something very, very common here. And what he talks about was the attachment phase. So in romance, this is the ideal. The ego ideals embrace. So all of the wonderful things you see and you understand, all of those things are embraced. You have mutual dependence, right? Not interdependence, not codependence, but mutual dependence. There is some sense of enmeshment, and there's no boundaries at the beginning. And then the hero leaves. Y'all seen, there's a TV show kind of like this called The Witcher. Anybody watch The Witcher? I think it's on Netflix. It might be on Hulu, but I love that show because it's all about The Witcher. It's all about a journey. That every single season, there's a new season that's out. Every single season has many, many trials. Yes, Patricia, many, many trials. And you go out into the forest and you have these adventures and you come home. So that's what happens. You go out, you detach. Detachment stage is conflict, where the shadow ego collides, right? So shadow, remember the shadow are things that are hidden, the things you don't want to address. Think about what the cowardly lion does. You have a cowardly lion, like in The Wizard of Oz, right? You're on this hero's journey, and the cowardly lion, that's the shadow side. He's supposed to be courageous. He's supposed to be the king of the jungle, but underneath it, he's a coward. He wants to suppress the fact that he's scared. And that starts to come out when the little Toto comes out and barks at him, and then he gets scared. And honestly, underneath all of that, his shadow is saying, you know what? There are some things that I'm struggling with. So I need to assert these things and learn about myself, become courageous. If you know The Wizard of Oz, the lion, he comes out on the other end and he is courageous, right? He had it in him. Everybody that was looking for something from Emerald City from the wizard, the wizard was a fake. They all had that in themselves. So it was the journey that they need to go on in order for them to be able to discover who and what they are. And that is what they're talking about here. And then eventually you integrate. That's where you have a commitment. All the trials and tribulations in your relationships, you have a healthy commitment, interdependence, there's ease, you understand true compatibility. You can really see each other, not through your ego, right? Because your ego, you put on your mate all of the wonderful things. Okay? You're projecting onto, in the romance phase, you're projecting onto your partner all of the wonderful qualities. You only see the wonderful qualities, but there's shadows to that, right? The shadow side. And that's when conflict happens. That's when you start to see the hidden. You start to see the intricacies in somebody's personalities, right? You start to acknowledge and you start to notice their flaws. So the shadow side. And then eventually you make a commitment. It's healthy to know, yeah, the good and the bad, but we're committed to each other and I love you anyway. And that's when the hero comes home. That's when things are beautiful. You have a mutual honoring of boundaries. And of course, you got to let your boundaries down so that you can show the other person who and what you are. It can be scary sometimes. So anyway, the hero's journey, y'all get into that with Joseph Campbell. Okay, so we move on. To be fixated in the attachment phase, right? That's the first phase, the attachment phase. To be fixated in the attachment phase makes for regression. Regression means going back. You can't go forward. It makes for regression. It makes for clinging and addiction. So when all you're thinking about is this beginning excitement of the relationship, like the first 18 months of a relationship, and you're not able to deal with any form of conflict, you're not able to see that person's flaws because nobody's perfect. It's not realistic to want to stay in this attachment phase at the beginning, this romantic phase. To be fixated in that attachment phase means you're regressing, you're clinging, and you have an addiction to love. Okay? The honeymoon period. Thank you, Travis. To be fixated in the detachment phase, where there's conflict, and the inevitable conflict that will test you, and you get to learn more about them. Remember, the purpose of conflict is to get to know somebody better. And if you look at conflict like that, it will help you to be way more realistic. It will help you to stop being so afraid of conflict, right? So, because conflict is just a way to get to know each other. And people who are really good at conflict understand this. They say, oh, wow, we totally disagree. This is where you need to stop and become curious about the other person. Okay. So, but to be fixated in this detachment phase makes for problems with authority and distancing. Am I there? Any of y'all? Any of y'all have issues with authority? Any of you guys want to detach? You're in this place where you want to avoid conflict. Anybody there? Some of y'all, how many of y'all, be honest, hate conflict? You're going to have it at work. So as soon as one problem happens at work, you be ready to get your resume together and go get another job. Thomas is admitting this, right? So as soon as you come across conflict, that's when you just want to jet. Well, I don't want to work here no more. These white people bother me. These people get on my nerves, but you're not seeing that conflict is inevitable. So it's like that at work. Nobody likes conflict, Val. Thank you for being honest. But know that conflict is how you grow. Sometimes if you have conflict at work, there's certain things you need to know about another person. Maybe there's something about your job that you need to learn about. Maybe you weren't trained well enough. But the conflict is inevitable because that's how you grow. Yes. All right. To move, look. To be fixated in the detachment phase makes for problems with authority. I'm glad I brought up jobs because there's some people who have issues with authority. And how could that not be translated in a work position? Like everybody needs to have somebody they report to. And you have to be respectful to each other, and you have to understand that there's a hierarchy. You have to understand that maybe that person's been doing that job longer than you, and maybe they can teach you something. But if you have problems with authority, sometimes you may be reacting more to something reminiscent of maybe some issues going on, and not really reacting to the fact that that person's just doing their job. Yes. Oh, look at Thomas self-disclosing. Therapy taught me to address conflict. It avoids the boil over. Oh my God, you'll lose it. You'll lose it. You have to address it, nip it in the bud, and get to a better understanding. And that's professionalism. And I think you need to interact with, you really need to interact with authority in a way where you can kind of respect authority and know that you can learn from them. Okay, so to move from phase to phase makes for serenity and opens us to concerns for the wider world. This is how healthy relationships heal the world. I choose to be here. I choose to be here. This is how healthy relationships heal the world. To move from phase to phase makes for serenity. You have to understand that it's normal and healthy to have conflict, normal and healthy to be in that romantic phase, normal and healthy to integrate. This is how you heal the world. I choose to be here. What do the 5 A's look like in your current phase? So in each phase, attachment, detachment, and integration, all 5 phases need to come together. And then he goes and he lists what they are, right? A big list. So the romance phase means, and if we're comparing romance and addiction, and you could list it, the romance phase is just a phase, but addiction, it's ongoing. In the romance phase, you have need fulfillment with a sense of contentment. You know that there's needs, but you're content with the fact that you have these needs. You understand, okay, you know what? Sometimes I would love to have companionship when I go to the movies. But if I don't, I understand that I feel a little lonely, but I will go to the movies by myself and enjoy my own time. Okay. But if it's an addiction, you're feeling like this neediness is felt as a bottomless pit. You can't get through it. Hi. Healthy relationships and romance tells you, I have a desire for contact, but it's proportional. He's got his life. She's got her life. I got my life. We'll see how we can fit these things in with each other. But in addiction, you are desperate for contact. More is given. It's not proportional. More is given and less is received. You are giving more than you're getting back. You're constantly calling somebody. They don't feel like they need to call you so many times. It's obsessive. You're obsessed over somebody. It's like you have this anxiety. Where are they? What are they doing? You want to know what's going on all the time, right? With romance, everything is egalitarian. Hey, ain't no man says this and woman does this. No, it's egalitarian. In healthy relationships, everybody's thoughts matter. Everybody's feelings matter. One person's thoughts and feelings is not above and beyond another person's. Yes, that's what happens. But in addiction, it's hierarchical. You have to get permission to do something instead of telling somebody. In healthy relationships, in adult relationships, you let people know, hey, I just want to let you know I'm going to the grocery store. Would you Is there anything you want me to get for you? That's an adult conversation. But when it's hierarchical, it's asking for permission. I think y'all understand that. In romance, healthy romance, it is reciprocal. It's give and take. The 5 A's are give and take. I see a future there, right? In addiction, it's always one-sided and there is no future there. It's this person over another person. In healthy romance, feelings of satisfaction and joy are there. I'm just happy with the time that we spend together, and that's what's beautiful to me. But in addiction, in toxic relationships, you feel like there's never enough. It's a bottomless pit. It's never enough. I can never have enough of you. You can think that, but you don't have to act on it. And you don't have to be obsessed with somebody, obsessing and compulsion with another person. That's not healthy. In romance, you feel secure because you have secure attachments. But in addiction, there's always doubts. You're not quite certain what's happening. You're not quite certain what's going on. There's always doubts. Everything is kind of nerve-wracking. In healthy relationships, you anticipate for the next time you see, oh, I look forward to meeting with you. And then you go on about your day, right? Your self-esteem is increased. You feel better about yourself. But in toxic relationships, you don't feel better about yourself. And it's often painful. You can't tolerate any sort of absence. That's obsession. That's addiction, not healthy. In nice, healthy, mature relationships, you have loose boundaries, right? You're comfortable letting people in. Both partners relate to each other that's healthy. I relate to you, you relate to me. And this begins the challenging journey to love. But in toxic relationships where it's unhealthy, what happens? There's no boundaries. There's no boundaries. There's no beginning or end. That's codependency, right? When there's no boundaries. One partner is being possessed by another, and this becomes a vicious cycle of pain. Most people do not understand. They confuse obsession with real love. And I think that for romance, if I had to sum it all up, romance is what happens when there's a mutual desire for connection and fulfillment. You feel content. There's proportional give and take. You're anticipating for future interactions. In romantic, healthy relationships, there is a feeling of satisfaction, joy, and secure. You feel secure in that relationship. You're not constantly worried, what are they doing, what's going on. There's boundaries are relaxed, but what happens is that boundaries are relaxed to the point where you have deeper connection and mutual understanding. So that helps to increase your self-esteem. It fosters a sense of well-being, and it helps you set the tone for love. How many of you guys are in relationships like this? How many of you guys aren't in relationships like this? Now you know what healthy relationships look like. Yet another dimension to what healthy relationships look like. Y'all see any elements of this in any of your current relationships, job relationships? You see this in employment, in education, if someone's abusing another person, right? Like if you got to set boundaries when you're working. It's like, it's a Sunday night. I don't want you texting me and calling me and expecting me to pick up the phone and answer the phone call while I'm at dinner with my family. That's not healthy. You need to put boundaries up. Like, I have a life outside of work, and that's healthy to balance your life out. Okay. So I just want to say, what does addictive, toxic, unhealthy love look like? Y'all see if y'all have these in your relationships. A desperate need for contact. Desperate need for contact. More is giving and less is received. You got to report to somebody. Somebody has to tell you what to do, control you. That's toxic. Because the one person has power, holds the power over you. And this addiction there's really no future. We're not talking about what the future. It's just characterized by this insatiable longing, and there's always doubt. In toxic relationship, you're always being hurt. You're always in pain about something. And there's a cycle of neediness. In unhealthy, toxic relationships, there's no boundaries and you lose your self-esteem. One partner becomes possessed by the other. And there's always a struggle. If you're in a relationship and there's constant struggle in that relationship, that's maybe toxic. You have to learn the differences between romance and addiction. And now y'all know, everybody know, y'all like and share this video, send it to somebody who y'all know somebody going through something like this. Let them know what healthy relationships look like, what toxic relationships look like, so that they know things need to change. You need to recognize the signs of what's healthy and what is unhealthy. Being dependent on somebody is unhealthy, and you have to guide that person or guide yourself, start with yourself, toward building something that's sustainable. Y'all got it? Okay. So how y'all doing? People just joining me. How to be an adult in relationships. It's the 5 keys to mindful loving. David Rico is breaking it down. What is healthy and not healthy? And Lord, us as Black people need to know this. Let me tell you, I've been a therapist for 20 some odd years. We need to know this. I've been a licensed therapist for 21 years. And I tell you, I wish everybody could just read this book and digest it. This will cure the world. You're talking about how to get, I don't believe in a world where we have war. If everybody read this book and incorporated this, it will heal the world. And that's my hope for the future, is that the world will be operating in a place that's not toxic. Because I do think we live in a very toxic world. Rhonda, how you doing? Aisha, hey. Okay, so what am I saying? I think I'm going to ask everybody, this is a webinar format. I've never done this before, but to get information and notifications on when I go live, I think they give you reminders. Hey, Dr. Alicia's going live at this time. You're going to have to go to put with your phones, text LOVE to 87948. Text love to 87948, and then you'll be able to know exactly when I go. I know I'm doing, I'm not going to be able to do it next week because I'm going to be doing my self-care, but I will be available the week after. So I'll be available. I don't know what day that is. I don't have my phone in front of me. I like that I don't have my phone because it is distracting. But anyway, I won't be available next week, but I will be available the week after. Hey, Mia, how you doing? Dennis, how you doing? Okay, we're talking about healthy and toxic love, how to be adult in relationships, the 5 keys to mindful loving by David Rico. I interviewed him. Check him out. The link is in the show notes. All of the previous videos to how to be an adult in relationships, those videos are in the notes. So just click on it and then you'll be able to get caught up. Okay. We are moving on. We're on page 126. Oh my gosh. It's been a half hour and I only got through less than a page. So let's go. Let's power through. Okay. This chart, toxic and healthy. This chart will find your present way of relating. Use this chart. So what they're saying in your journals, y'all got your journals out, use the chart. Everything that I talked about was romance, healthy romance, and toxic addiction. Use the chart to find your present way of relating. Be honest with yourself about where you are on some of these things. If you seem to be addicted, write journal responses to these statements. Okay, pay attention. Get your journals out. See where it is that you are addicted. You keep chasing someone who does not want or respect you. You stay with someone with whom problems are unworkable or who is abusive. How would you respond to those statements? How would you respond to, you are with someone who depletes you. You keep going back for more when there's only less. You can never get enough of what you do not need. You forget that if you can't get enough, you do not need it. You are trying to redo and undo a parental bond simultaneously. You are in an addictive bond with someone who is addicted to you. Goes back and forth. You are the object of someone's addiction. How would you respond to that? Y'all like and share this with somebody if it sounds like somebody you know. Say, hey, tell me what you think about this. So you write these in your journals and you respond to those statements. Let me read them again. You keep chasing someone who does not want or respect you. You stay with someone whom problems are unworkable or who is abusive. You are with someone who depletes you. You keep going back for more when there's only less. You can never get enough of what you do not need. You forget that if you cannot get enough, you do not need it. You forget that. You are trying to redo and undo a parental bond simultaneously. You are in an addictive bond with someone who is also addicted to you. You are the object of someone's addiction. Is the following something you might say? I cannot let go. I do not even know whether I really want to stay. I just don't know. I don't know if I want to stay. As long as I am infatuated, I lose my boundaries and sometimes even my own self-respect. I will put up with anything from the other just to get my fix. Let me tell you, it is toxic, unhealthy to think that just because you're married to somebody, you have to continuously put up with toxicity. You should always work for healthy relationships. And that other person that you're married to or in a relationship should always be working toward healthy relationships with you. And if they refuse to work for it, you need to start thinking, I am not excited by relationships when I see these things happen. And some people think, oh, we've been together for 10 years and it's been so, it has to be a good 10 years. It cannot be this toxicity back and forth. I do not admire those relationships. I will put up with anything from the other just to get my fix. I lose so much in my addictive attachments. How to release yourself. Oh, goodness. Page 127. Get your journals out. They're going to give you some solutions. So the first part here is kind of like making an assessment, an honest assessment of yourself, what's going on. And now they're talking about how you can release yourself from denial. A lot of people are in denial. In releasing ourselves from denial, in romance, we want what the other can give. I see what you can give, and that's what I want. In addiction, we crave what the other and anyone cannot give. We're craving, this person doesn't even have the capacity to give you the 5 A's. Attention, allowance, affection. They can't give you affection. They can't give you attention. They can't allow you to be who you are. They cannot, attention, affection, allowance, appreciation. They can't appreciate anything you do for them. They let me see what the other one. They can't accept you. They can't give you the attention. They aren't able to appreciate you. They aren't able to give you affectionate. They're not affectionate, and they're not allowing. They're judging instead of allowing. In addiction, we crave what the other and anyone cannot give. Recovery from a one-sided addiction begins with freeing ourselves from denial. I do not want to know what you are unable to tell me. I don't want to know what you are unable to tell me. That is denial. I cannot see that what I want is not what you offer. I'm unable to recognize that the things that I want in a relationship are the things you can't even offer to me. You have nothing for me. I am not really looking at you at all, but I'm only looking at my own neediness. Freedom from the addiction will mean ending our confusion. Speak up first in your journal. Sometimes you're not ready to speak it out loud to another person, but speak up first in your journal. Write about this. Then, when you are ready, confide in a friend. Talk to a friend about this. And then face to face with the object of your addiction. I want to say something about addictions. I don't think I ever really defined addictions. And I do want to take some time to talk a little bit about addictions, because this is about addictive love. But I really do think that addiction is not just limited to substance abuse. There's various forms of addiction. And I think relationships definitely fall into that. Addiction is really a lack of connection. It's an intense, compulsive attachment to another person. And in addictive love is driven by our unmet needs. And there's this hole, this emotional void. That's where addiction comes from. And so I just want you all to recognize that addiction in relationships tend to lead to codependency. You don't have your own autonomy, and it just affects your self-esteem. You're like, I can't go because I don't have this person with me. I don't even want to participate in any activities outside of being with this person. And that's when you know that that's not right. So I just want to make that point out about addictions. And hey, Pam. Pam says, Pam is repeating it. I'm there now where I don't know if I want to let, excuse me, if I want to let go. but no matter how I say I want out, he doesn't hear me. So Pam, you got somebody who's not willing to listen. Oh, excuse me. Somebody's not willing to listen. But I just been staying away and saying no to being around him. This is good. I mean, Pam, if you feel like you're not at the point where you can talk to him about, excuse me, exactly what it is that you want to let him know, eventually you need to get to the point where you need to let him know how you're feeling. But thank you for disclosing that. Patricia says, why do we feel we need their permission to take a step away, even to break? You don't. You can just let somebody know. Everyone needs personal space, and to always keep personal space in place in the relationship. For me, yeah, I mean, that's healthy. There's things that we do when we are together, but we don't have to be together all the time. And if you feel like you need to be together all the time, that's definitely problematic. Hey, Ed. Oh, I need some water. I don't have any. I drank all my water. Ed is saying the whole concept of relationship that you're dealing with is based on a Caucasian's point of view in the Western society. That's a good point. That's a good point, Ed. It is, in a sense. But some of this, in terms of growing and being healthy, some of this is universal. Just think about the 5 feelings that are emotions that all of us have. Yes, Travis, I do need some vitamin C. I probably need to go to some place where there's sun. But yeah, that's a good point. Some things are culture specific, but think about feelings. Just think about the feelings: anger, sadness, disgust. All of these feelings are universal if you think about it. Love. I mean, you could go to India and you could look at a couple in India and you can tell, oh, he don't really like her. She mad at him or he mad at her. You can tell. You don't even need to know the language. You can go to China and tell and look at a family dynamic. I've done it. I've been to China and I've watched family dynamics and I realized, God, in a lot of ways, some of this stuff is universal, but it's always good to know about culture. Thank you. Okay, let's move on, you guys. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I got choked up. Okay. So let's talk about obsession. How we deal with obsession. An addiction is an obsession in our minds and a compulsion in our behavior. We feed the addiction when we let the obsessive thoughts spill over into compulsive actions. To allow the thoughts and not act on them is a crucial part of letting go, right? Not act on them, just letting go. That's the first part. There's other parts to it. But thus, I can think about you every minute while driving on the freeway, but I do not have to swerve off at the next exit and call you just to hear your voice. Okay, this was written a long time ago, but it could be, I don't have to text you all the time. Yeah, I was thinking about you. Interesting you called me. I was thinking about you. It doesn't mean that you need to act and love bomb somebody all the time. To free ourselves from addiction is to pass up the chance for a fix. It takes work to see what we are really up to. Say this aloud if this applies to you. See if this applies to you. Actually, every thought about the person who loved me or left me is really a plea for attention from the wounded, non-grown up part of me now re-experiencing its original pain through the newest version of mom or dad who abandoned me. I think this is very critical when it comes to romantic relationships, and I really do think that this is one of many reasons why your romantic relationship, although it is similar to other types of relationships, it is to be compared to no other. Because the person that you're dating is a newest version of the parents who raised you. You are re-experiencing the original pain through the newest version of mom or dad who abandoned me, either physically or emotionally. Obsessive thoughts about this present man are actually urgent pleas from my past. Great pain in present relationships gives me a perhaps unwelcome clue to the family ties broken long ago. This person only triggers the old, but never current predicament. I'm going to read this again because I really think this is, to me, I think this is the key for insightful things, but I really think this is the key to healing. Because I really do believe that if you become insightful and you start to become more aware of how this is operating in your life, that this is how you heal through your current romantic relationship. There's some healing that can happen through another person if you're self-aware and you want to become insightful and you want to be able to understand things better. I'm going to read this again. Actually, every thought about the person who loved me or left me is really a plea for attention from the wounded, ungrown up part of me, now re-experiencing its original pain through this newest version of mom or dad who abandoned me, either physically or emotionally or both, right? Obsessive thoughts about this present man are actually urgent pleas from my past. Great pain in present relationships gives me a perhaps unwelcome clue to the family ties broken long ago. This person only triggers the old, but never, ever current predicament. We are reading How to Be an Adult in Relationships, The 5 Keys to Mindful Loving by David Rico. Hello, everybody. We are on page 127. How y'all doing? We are talking about healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships, and now we are talking about why obsessions happen. You are in a relationship with a person who can't love you the way you want them to love you. And part of that need is reminiscent of the need you felt when you were younger and you didn't get some of this stuff from either your mom or your dad, who either abandoned you physically or emotionally or both. It's a plea to get them to pay attention to you, to give you the 5 A's. And sometimes we get in a relationship with people who could never give us the 5 A's. It can never be enough because you're still wounded and you did not get what you needed to get when you were younger, and you grow up and you seek it in your current relationships and you're not conscious of this. It's unconscious. So we're going to rise this up to a conscious level because this is how you heal. If anybody wants to work with me, go to coachingwithdralicia.com. If you want to know next times, all of the times that I go live to talk about this book, text the word love, LOVE, to 87948, and you will get information about when I go live so you won't miss anything. Y'all like and share this with people who you're like, this is reminding me of somebody. See how they experience this. Good spark. Y'all send it to your significant others because I'm sure there's something happening, something that every one of us can relate to. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Responding to those who seduce and then withhold. That's disorganized attachment. I think I talked about that 2 weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago. Disorganized attachment is the push-pull. It's like, I'm lonely, I need somebody with me. As soon as you get that person with you and that person gets close and you start really enjoying it, you get really frightened and overwhelmed, and then you push them away. You do things to make sure that they don't love you. You're not lovable. When you need this relationship and you have these needs, you become lovable. But as soon as they get close, you become unlovable and push them away. What do? These are answers today. When a person assumes the style of seduction and withholding, she seduces because of her terror of being alone and abandoned. She withholds because of her terror of being close and engulfed. She is at the mercy of a panic that creates a reflex response. In the context of such dread, the seduction is not a lie, nor is the withholding a punishment. So it wasn't like they were seducing you to manipulate you. That's a whole different people do that, but not in this case, right? They're not seducing you to manipulate you. They're not lying to you. They really honestly want to be with you. They really honestly want to spend time with you. And they're also not withholding to try to punish you. None of it is about you. People who do this because they have fear, panic, terror. They're lonely and they feel terror. They're withholding because they're scared of being close to somebody. Because the people they were close to in the past hurt them. So they've associated closeness, this closeness, with pain and suffering. And they were never able to heal from that. So when they grow up, when they start to feel good and they have somebody close to them, they're so out of a sudden afraid. And they're like, I'm going to push you away because I need to protect myself. I'm scared something's going to happen, that this person is going to hurt me. So I'm going to push them away before they get a chance to hurt me. This entire push-pull is a panic. It's a panic that creates a reflex response. We can respond to a person who behaves like this, right? We can respond with compassion rather than retaliation. Because if you retaliate, you're basically giving in to what that person thought you were going to do anyway. See, I knew it. This is why I don't let anybody close to me, because this is how they treat me. You should handle people like that with compassion rather than retaliation. Ask yourself silently, can you stand aside as a non-judging witness and support her in finding help to work through her fear? Finding help to work through her fear instead of responding. If you are the one seducing and withholding, you need therapy, basically. You definitely need to go into therapy. You need to figure it out. And I love the fact that this book is encouraging you, when you see other people's sort of chaotic way, disorganized way of relating to you, do not take it personal. Because if you do, you're going to retaliate. So don't take it personal. It's like the 4 agreements. Y'all know about the 4 agreements? One of the agreements is don't take it personal, right? You know, I think it's just to understand this dynamic and understand that it is a fear response, but it's driven by genuine emotions, right? And people feel lonely and they want connection. So if you see it in yourself, any of this, there's guidance and support. You can reach out to me or you can reach out to anybody. Yes, Patricia, push-pull is panicking. Woo. Imagine how these people feel. It's really tough. Okay. Finding the program. We're moving on page 128. I think we may do a couple more paragraphs because it's like we've been at it for an hour now. So, okay. Finding the program. In my practice as a therapist, I keep finding that addictions almost always have to run their course. Marcel Proust seems to support me in his commitment that obsessive love is like an evil spell in a fairy story against which one is powerless until the enchantment has passed. I love these fairy tale references. It's just beautiful. Therapy and spiritual practice help, but they cannot compete with an active flow of adrenaline. Yes, an addictive relationship promises and delivers an excitement that most people interpret as true aliveness. You interpret that excitement as healthy when it's not. It is hard to let that go, especially when so little comes along to take its place. You cannot remove an addiction unless you have something to take its place. Those addictions 101, we know this. Okay. Addiction is ultimately a form of pain. As old song says, who can give me what you give me? Who can make me feel this way? Who, oh, who can hurt so good? Who can hurt so good? There will never be another you. Why must your kiss torture me like this? Wow. At the same time, there are tools that work. A 12-step program is a very powerful spiritual tool for people addicted to relationships, to romance, or to a specific person. By working through steps adapted from the Alcoholics Anonymous program. He's telling y'all to do anonymous program, alcohol AA programs, basically. And having a sponsor, a friend, someone that can help you, can free oneself from addiction. Recognize that all your efforts are not quite enough to deliver you from this kind of pain. You will have to turn yourself over to a power greater than yourself. Who or what is that for you? The higher power we turn to can be God, it can be Mother Nature, it can be a sacred heart of the universe. Listen, he is saying this applies to everybody. Whatever you connect with, or whatever seems transcendent to you. These are all forms of assisting force of grace, help that comes to us from beyond our effort or control. A 12-step program helps us form a link to that power that's higher than ego, a refuge from the snare of addiction. Something else I want to talk about addiction. As I was reading this, I was just thinking about addiction is not about the drug, right? Most people who try drugs don't become addicted. Most people who gamble don't become gambling addicts. Most people who watch porn aren't addicted to porn. Most people eat. We all eat 3 meals a day. Most people who eat don't become addicted to food. People who shop, we're going Christmas shopping. People who shop don't become addicted to shopping. We all share similarities in the same process. People have intercourse, people have sex, but they don't become addicted to sex, right? So these addictions, there's something unique about it. It's not the actual addiction. It's a process of relief. If you are turning towards shopping to relieve a pain, then it can become addictive, right? And so it's a short-term ability. It's short-term and you can't give it up. So addiction is a relief from stress. It helps you numb your pain, and you just have to give yourself grace if you're addicted to in this way, because the desire to feel normal and the desire to not have the stress in your life, the desire to have a peace of mind can be what is actually driving the addiction. So the thing is that you need to explore the feeling that made you want to use drugs. What is the feeling that made you go shop uncontrollably? Getting connected to that feeling. And you will find that it really distracts you from stress, and it gave you control. It gave you a peace of mind. It helped to numb the pain. That's why alcoholics drink so much, because they have this deep-seated pain, and it helps to numb the pain. So, I think it's important to just understand that part. Addiction is a chemical imbalance in the brain. Yeah, it is chemical. So it disconnects you from yourself, and it shapes the pain. So you do have these endorphins and dopamine receptors, and you have these things, right, that are there. That is a good way of relieving some of the stress. It restores the stress response. right? So the biggest driver of addiction is stress, and it helps to restore the stress. Who's in here with me? Take him out of there. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. Let's go to the last paragraph here on page 129. Spiritual practice can thwart the ego's frail but stubborn attempts to control others and make the world obey our wishes. What is required is medication on the three marks of our existence: impermanence, suffering, and the fact that a solid self is ultimately an illusion. Yes, we cannot see any of this without someone's help, especially while we are addicted, which is why we need a program with a sponsor, a spiritual practice with a teacher, and a course of therapy. Approach addictions not with shame, but with a spirit of inquiry, wanting to know how your mind got caught in desire. This means finding a way to accept yourself without the mindset of judgment, fear, blame, attachment, biases, or defenses. That is mindfully. See the other as a Buddha. Here to show you where your work is, just how far astray you can go from the path, and how you can return to it, back on the path. And that's it for today for practices. There's a lot to write in your journals. We're going to pick this up the next time we meet. It won't be next week. Oh, there's only 2 more pages. So we'll pick up the last 2 pages, and maybe I'll have some question and answer next time I come on. But you are watching The Practice of High Romance. This is part 1. Part 2 is coming in 2 weeks of how we're going to practice high romance, not addictive love, but high romance, and how to be an adult in relationships, The 5 Keys to Mindful Loving by David Rico. That is what we're reading. Get this book. We're like halfway in it. There's still time for you to get caught up. You can get caught up. You can watch in the show notes. It will show you the links to all of my previous discussions. It also gives you an outline of what the 5 A's to Mindful Loving is. And then let's see what else. You can text the word love, LOVE, to 87948. And then you can get information about when I go live on for book club and also for Mental Health Monday. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about politics tomorrow. How about that? Politics tomorrow. Coachingwithdralicia.com. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining.